And 18th century is going to be called the golden age of Korean painting. So let me share my slide with you. So let me make the screen a little bit bigger. Okay, so this is late Joseon painters, and I want you to remember the names of Joseon, Kim Hong-do, and Shin Yun-bo. These three are major painters. There are more, but this is a survey of Korean art, and I think at least you should know these three major painters. You should remember these three names. And the overview is there are two types of painting that are notable. The first one is genre painting, meaning scenes of everyday activities. And then another subject matter is rear view landscape. And this is influenced by Shilhak movement, practical learning. And in order to understand these two subject matters, you need a little bit more background information. So that is this. 18th century is called Renaissance in Joseon Dynasty. So to summarize, Korea suffered very much during the Imjin War, and then they survived after 7 years. But then the Ming Dynasty, who supported or helped Joseon to overcome the invasion from Japan, the Ming Dynasty collapsed. So what happened? New tribe called the Manchu from the Manchuria are invading Korea as well as mainland China. So China is going to have a new dynasty called Qing. It's called Qing. Qing, like this. The new dynasty of Qing. So that Joseon resisted, said, well, we cannot really respect Qing because we are more loyal to Ming, the previous dynasty. So the Manchu rulers got angry. They invaded Joseon in the early 17th century. So that was also dragging on that, 10, 20 years. So finally, after many years of damages, about, let's say, 70 years of warfare and damages, Joseon is going to enjoy Renaissance, like a new prosperity. And that coincides with Sukdong's reign. He became the king around the 1700s. And then Yeongjo and Jeongjo. So if you remember King Sejong of only Joseon Dynasty, the late Joseon Dynasty, you should remember these new names of Sukdong, Yeongjo, Jeongjo. So this is another era where you see a lot of historical documentaries, like historical dramas, novels written for these rulers. So 18th century. Here, the most important first person is Yeongjo. So just like King Sejong, he ruled in his reign for a long time, of about 50 long years. And he was a very good king. So this is very important. Unfortunately, Jeongjo, you see over here, he had a lot of potential. He was grandson of Yeongjo. So there is again a very tragic family story between Yeongjo's son and Yeongjo himself. So that there's no son. There is a skipping to grandchild Jeongjo. So he had a lot of potential, but he died after 4 years of reign. So that's why a lot of historians feel sorry that Korean history could have changed if Jeongjo was in the reign for a longer time. He died in his 40s, very young age. But during this time, Korea suffered from fractional struggle. just like U.S. current politics, we have a Democratic Party and Republican Party. They are collaborating, but they are also opposing in certain ideas, right? So in Korea too, there were about 2 major, sometimes 4 different political parties, and they had different opinions on the same issue. So it was the Sarim struggle or Bundang in Chinese characters. But factional struggles are painful because nothing is agreed upon, but at the same time, it is a good tension. You need different opinions. You don't want a dictatorship, right? So Kim Young-jo, even though he was very smart and great leader, he had to listen to these other people's opinions based on their political positions. So why is this called Renaissance? Because these kings, Youngjo and Jeongjo, they were interested in Western science and invention, especially King Jeongjo. He was a great scholar and intellectual. So both Youngjo and Jeongjo, they sent envoys or representatives to Beijing. And in the 1700s, if you go to Beijing, you can encounter European missionaries like Jesuits or Dominicans, those kind of Catholic missionaries. So through them, Korean people, Joseon Dynasty intellectuals learned about Western science and inventions. One of the reasons behind it is that in Japan, for example, they had that teppo or Portuguese firearms during the Indian War. Joseon didn't have, so they wanted to modernize itself with their own effort. And then Jeongjo, for example, following steps of King Sejong, he established the Kyunghee, and that is a royal library in order to improve the cultural position of Joseon and recruit gifted officers to run the nation. And here they also studied Western science and inventions. And then in Kyunghee and also in the government, there are many Shilhak scholars, like who studied practical knowledge, some influenced by Western science and inventions. So that's a cultural renaissance of Joseon in the 8th century. So Jeongjo, for example, the King Jeongjo was interested in defense mechanism, like scientific techniques. So he designed a new fortress in Pasong. Pasong is an old name for Suwon. Suwon is the modern name of this station. So he designed this new tomb, like the fortress with advanced cannons. And then it's nearby his father's tomb. So the point is, King Youngjo is out of a how can I say, humble mother. As you can imagine, there is a king at the court, and then there are many women or concubines who want to have a male heir with this king, right? So Youngjo was not even in the short list to be the next king. But somehow Sukjong's son Gyeongjong is shortly. He was only in the throne for a year or so and then died. So that people, and then he died of a child. So that people were looking for the next king, and that was Youngjo.